All right, welcome back. So today I'm gonna actually start sanding my car. Finally, I got my tent set up in the background, starting to cover up my cars. I even hooked up a fan in there to get some cross ventilation going, so it's just not all completely sealed off. So pretty much time to get this thing moving along. So first thing I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna go around the whole car with a Sharpie and I'm gonna circle every little chip or every blemish. I'm gonna mark everything. So as I'm sanding each panel, I'll know once everything's covered in dust, I'll be able to see the black circled marks better. So it just helped me be more accurate and not miss as much. So I'm gonna start off by doing that. So besides that, I have my sander, sandpaper, and of course some sort of mask or respirator you're gonna need, especially if you're in an area like that that's all closed off. It's just gonna be super dusty and messy. So now let's just get started and start circling these chips. This week's video is brought to you by LCOBMW. Shop our site for Corvette performance parts. We now have our new D.I.Y Cat Delete pipes back in stock, our new test pipes, and we now have a new version of our hose kit available. This is for 88 to 91. This includes a fitting that you can hook your hose directly up to the hose that's on your car on the firewall. So check out the link in the description or visit LCOBMW.com. All right, so I'm just going to start on the hood here and just kind of mark every little thing I see that it may need some help. These little chips here. Cracking around the headlight here. Obviously this horrible spot. All these rough spots in the paint here, there's several of them. I'm gonna probably start with like 220 and try to get this down pretty far, so all this has to be primered. Okay, so if you've never done anything like this before, the whole theory behind this is that you want to keep this as flat as possible on the surface. When you're working out all these little deep chips that are down pretty far, the worst thing you can do is kind of lean up on the edge there to sand it out. Although it'll kind of sand it down a lot faster, you want to keep this thing flat as possible, as much as possible. Because what will happen is if you put too much pressure on one little area like that, once you paint the car, whatever, you look down the side, you'll see exactly where you kind of just dug in a little bit harder. So keep it flat in all the areas as much as you can. All right, so I have 220 on here, which I'm gonna start off with. I'm gonna do all the rough spots with that, and then I'm gonna end up using 400 to finish everything off. Okay, so I got everything sanded with the DA. Turned out pretty good, very, very messy. This red single stage is so messy, so I'm so glad I made this tent because this stuff is everywhere and it gets to everything and it's just literally covered, as you can see behind me on the walls, it's everywhere. Besides that, I got everything pretty much sanded flat. So I'm gonna just do a quick walk around just to show you some areas and what we're gonna do next. Okay, starting with the front, there's one little chip here, gonna do a little body work there, but this whole area in the front, I'm gonna prime all this since there's all these spots here, and the same thing with the front bumper. So I'm gonna get all that primed and then resand that down with 400. Any of these spots that are low like this where it's feathered out, and I did that, all the real bad stuff I used 220 and then I went over everything with 400 just to kind of feather it out and get the transition to get all the little chips out. There's a lot of little chips and nicks and stuff all over. This area too was all the paint was really messed up here, so I had to 220 all that down and probably just hit that with a light coat of filler too. It's a little rough in there, but that'll be filler and primer on that. And then there's just spots pretty much all over the car that I'm going to just touch up and primer in sections here and then sand that back out. Same thing with the back. The rear bumper is pretty rough. There's a lot of like urethane stress cracks that all had to be sanded out. So that's what that looks like. And up here, this is all cracked out in the urethane. So I feathered that all out best I can, and that's all gonna be primed too. Same thing around the back, especially in the corners and too. Like every little corner is like just spider cracks from the paint, so all that had to be taken down pretty far. So all that'll get primer, all these big areas. Same thing on this side too. The paint was really rough right here, so to take that down. And then up here, my worst area is actually not that bad, so we're gonna end up doing some body work on that too. All right, so that's pretty much like step one with the sanding. So now I'm gonna get this thing all cleaned off, and then I'm gonna start priming everything, and then I can go back over it with 400, and then I'm gonna go over the whole car, a couple areas that I couldn't get with the DA. I'm gonna 400 that too, and then I'm gonna go over everything with a scuff pad as well. But first things first, get it cleaned off. I'm gonna get it primed in the next video and do some of the body work too, and then I can go over the whole thing, make sure everything's sanded properly and I didn't miss anything. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.